Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. How you doing out there? Hope you're doing well. So as you guys know, the big news is that Zoran Mamdani has won the New York City mayoral race, and I know that you guys already know some of this, obviously, but I will be talking about it from an angle that I feel like a lot of people don't. So that's why I feel like it's still worth talking about. This is the NPR headline: Mamdani wins New York City mayoral race in a historic victory for progressives. Meanwhile, Fox News headline was reanimated skull of Karl Marx is elected to New York mayor. It's almost all worth it just to see the right wing lose their goddamn minds. I'm going to play a little bit of his acceptance speech here in a second, but I just a quick thought on this to begin with is I feel like you gotta, if you want to talk about Zoran Mamdani, you kind of got to level set. You kind of got to decide what is it you want to expect from this guy. Are you expecting an American revolution across the country to bring down capitalism? Then you shall be disappointed. You shall be ridiculously disappointed. Are you expecting something that rips the two-party bullshit apart and reveals the Democrats for who they truly are, and reveals the Republicans, and it just collapsed? I still think you're going to be disappointed. I highly suspect you'll be disappointed. However, he was elected to the mayor of New York. If you are asking something that he actually has control over, or some control over, such as will he make a difference for New Yorkers, especially the New Yorkers who are struggling to afford groceries, struggling to afford the bus fare, will he make a difference for them? That I feel is a more reasonable question. For some people, for some reason, not for some reason, we know exactly why, but people want to act like this is this is Braveheart leading the troops over the hill. And it's like, he was elected mayor of New York. I feel like he's probably going to try and make, he said he wants to make bus rides free. So I feel like he'll probably be trying to do that stuff a little more than bring down capitalism. So you got to level set a little bit. What is the question we're asking of this young man? And yes, I get to call him a young man because I am far, far, far older than him. He is only 34 years old. But I don't want to be disappointing, but no, he's not going to bring down capitalism. He's not going to stop the collapse of the U.S. empire. He's not going to end global warming. So, and the same is true of the opposite side. It's like you could say to the right wing, this guy is not going to, whatever you think he's going to do, he's going to cause a rebellion of non-white people who just burn down all the houses of all the whiteys across the country. I'm sorry, right wing, that's not going to happen either. I wouldn't expect that from Mamdani. He is the youngest mayor in New York in 100 years. And by the way, 100 years ago, the average person in New York or anywhere in America only lived to about 37. So it makes sense that there were younger mayors back then because limited amount of time you had to work with. Also, he is the first immigrant mayor of New York City, even though it is very much a city of immigrants. Rarely are they elected to mayor. And he brought down one of the biggest New York political dynasty corrupt families, the Cuomos. So that's pretty exciting as well. So I feel like level setting is kind of important. Before I show some of what he said and some other stuff about that, let me I put up a poll on my YouTube as to what you guys think. And I specifically worded it as, do you think he'll make a difference in the lives of New Yorkers? Not, do you think he'll bring about the American version of the Bolshevik Revolution? I said, do you think he'll make a difference in New Yorkers? I just put it up a couple hours ago. 380 votes so far. 70%. Pretty evenly split in terms of thirds here. 2/3 say yes. 1/3 say no. He won't. So, some important points. I feel like to really decide what we're asking of this guy. But let me play a minute of his speech. By the way, I love the super chats you guys have been throwing in. They really do help the show. I've decided that today, if there's $100 all told, all added up of super chats, both here, Rumble, then I will do an extra 10 minutes. So we'll keep the show going if we get to $100 on super chats. But anyway, here is some of his acceptance. It's I'm just gonna play a couple minutes, not that much of it because you may have already seen it, but also I can only handle so much clapping. Also, there's the fact that he looks a little bit like the soup Nazi. Oh yeah, I can't say that word on YouTube, can I? He looks a little bit like the soup N-word. Oh, that sounds even worse. Yeah, let's go back to Nazi. For those of you who recall the old 1990s show titled Seinfeld. It looks a little bit like the soup Nazi. Anyway.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity.
Couple of things. One is, I think the right wing often uses dog whistles to say racist shit that you can't really accuse them of being racist, but you kind of know what they're saying. It's kind of like when Rupert Murdoch said that without Israel, we need Israel to defend Western values against the Middle East. He meant white people. He meant defend white values, is what he meant, because he's from Australia. Israel's not Western. Anyway, he meant white people. But so it's kind of like one of those dog whistles. I feel like him referencing Eugene Debs right there in the speech was kind of a dog whistle to people who are even remotely left wing to go, oh, all right, Eugene Debs, nice. The man who, stood for the workers, locked up in prison just for saying that World War I was a banker's war, won 1 million votes while locked up in prison for president of the United States. He was running for president from prison. All right, good reference. I feel like that was a bit of a dog whistle to the left.
For as long as we can remember.
Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing I was going to say is he mentioned all of humanity. And so I feel like when I was saying level set at the beginning, he a little bit is responsible for the fact that people are expecting him to change all of humankind because he's giving a speech about all of humanity. But really, I think he's going to aim to make subway fares cheaper. but yeah, humanity's on a new path, but also subway's going to be more affordable.
The working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight,
has anyone checked about his calluses? He's got some solid calluses going on? Because I'm not, if he's not calloused up, I'm not listening any further.
Against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
And you got to kind of admit that even if that's the only thing he achieves, even if he doesn't achieve one goddamn thing he set out to do, at least he made Cuomo go the fuck home. At least he made Cuomo sit down. That's almost worth it all. However this ends, that's almost worth it.
to the few.
Anyway, you get the point. It really, that's as you know, I've said to you over many years, this is about, these are words and it will depend on actions. It'll depend on whether he's able to achieve any of the things or even intends to achieve all these things. One of the, probably the biggest wake up I had for how the politics in this country works and how little electoralism matters was, I was young enough. I was in my 20s when Obama was running the first time around. I'd only just become kind of politically active, as they say. And I thought that you get Obama into the presidency, you put a black person in as president, and things could change. Also, one of the things that made me think Obama could change things is the fact that he was the first president where the majority of the money that got him elected came from individual, like small-time donors, came from people throwing in $7. He was the first one ever, since money has been the prevalent thing. First one ever. And so I was like, well, that might mean that he's accountable to the people throwing in the $7 than the people throwing in the 5 million. And it turned out I had learned the lesson by 2009. 2008. I was like, this hope and change, man. Hope and motherfucking change. 2009. I was like, oh, none of it mattered. Oh, all righty then. Okay, cool. Got it. Got noted. Noted. This is very different, though, for a couple of reasons. One, the biggest one is this guy's not president. So it really depends on what he does for New York. Is he does he immediately do what the biggest money interests want him to do with New York? Some of the telltale signs will be whether he even remotely sticks to his rent promises, to decrease rent, to what's it called, the freeze rent, for people that are struggling, etc. Because real estate is one of the biggest industries in New York, and they are one of the most powerful industries. And if it becomes clear that he's not doing any of that, that'll be one of the biggest signs that he's not standing by any of this stuff. But the flip side of the let's level set and realize that what this guy is doing right now is trying to help some poor New Yorkers as opposed to trying to end capitalism. The flip side of that is this is a Band-Aid. Even if he were to succeed, let's say, oh my God, he succeeds. Let's say he pisses off Trump and he gets frozen rent and he makes the police even a modicum more accountable, and he makes subways free. Let's say he achieves some of that stuff, or all of these things he said. The next question is to realize, or the next thing is to realize that that is not bringing down capitalism. It's not changing the way the system works. It is what he was able to do and help some people. And so therefore I support helping some people. But you have to understand what that this harm comes from the systems at play. And sure enough, even if he achieves those things, thank you, Jolly Pop and Ratso, for donating, for adding some super chats in there. Really appreciate it. Ratso's asking if Garden Rock retired from public service. Yard Rock, it was a tough campaign, and it took a toll on his mental health. And so he still follows the day to day, but he's not running for office at the moment. But, one day we may get him into office. I don't know. I'll talk to him and we'll see if maybe he could run again sometime. But so we need to understand, even if whether you're excited about Mamdani or hate Mamdani, we need to understand that this does not change the systems at play. And if he were to achieve the things or not achieve the things, when he's out of office, the powerful systems will go back to doing what they do, which is to jack up rates, which is to keep everybody locked in wage slavery, which is to keep everybody struggling. All those things will continue, whether he succeeds or not. And to me, that is an important understanding. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't support him decreasing subway fares to zero because people need fucking public transportation. but these are Band-Aids. And I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm not saying, fuck this guy. He's only offering Band-Aids. He's the mayor of New York, not the president, not even the president of a country. He's not even the president of Ecuador. So those Band-Aids can help people. That is why I rail about SNAP benefits and food stamps, because getting that money out to those people helps them right now. Does that undo this fucked system? No. And so we have to understand both those things. And I think a lot of people want to think it's one or the other. Unless the mayor of New York or the guy running for mayor of New York is only talking about crushing all of capitalism, then screw it. Well, I think there's some things that can be done to help people right now in New York City. And you can't always let the great be the enemy of the good. But you have to realize those are Band-Aids. And one more thought about, a couple more thoughts about Mamdani and this win. The system will do everything it can to fight him, assuming he tries to stick to his promises. And they will first try to co-opt him. Can he be bought off with big money? Can he be bought off with access? Can he be bought off with, if you just play your cards right and don't do anything that hurts real estate in New York City, you could probably run for president one day, young man. You just hang out there, you do a little tweaks around the edges, maybe you lower the subway tickets by $1 and you never touch real estate because they're too powerful, and then they'll donate to you when you run for president. Maybe he'll fall for that shit. He could be co-opted. He could become the next AOC calling Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear. I don't know. So that'll be probably step one that they'll try. Step two, and it is not unfeasible in our country that there could be, if he really sticks to his guns and tries to make large-scale changes in New York, it's not like assassinations haven't happened before. So let's hope that's not the solution. I'm going to bring up Dennis Kucinich in a minute. And Dennis Kucinich said that as mayor in Cleveland, when he was young, very young, and he was up against the mob, Cleveland mob, and sure enough, a bullet at one point whizzed by his head. So it's not unfeasible if you actually stick to these values. But then I think the next thing they'll do, they've already been trying this, but they'll continue to try this, is just get him the fuck out of office. And then let's say he's no longer mayor and he runs for Congress. They'll dump crazy amounts of money against him. This is assuming that they don't have easy extortion, material. They don't Anthony Weiner him. He doesn't have any photos of his crotch that he's posted somewhere. That's assuming they don't have stuff on him. They'll just flood whatever campaigns are his next ones. And this is what was done to get Kucinich out. This is what was done against the tiny, tiny number of other people that actually stuck to their beliefs and were booted from Congress because just crazy amounts of money went to their opponents. They got Cynthia McKinney out. They got Alan Grayson out. Now, Alan Grayson's not great on everything, but he was great on enough things that they had a real problem with him. But, Kucinich is a good example. Who knows what the fuck they did to Bernie after 2016. I know a lot of people have theories. Anyway, that's how our system works. And it's how our system will continue to work. So, in order for him to create change, even in New York City, even on smaller things he's promised or wants to do, he needs more than him. He needs a movement, and that's where organizing comes in. And it can't be about a person. It's got to be about something larger. It's got to be about workers. It's got to be about people uniting to fight the ruling class fucking parasites. That's where the actual power is. It's not in one guy. It's not in one guy with a big old smile. Hey, that's, yeah, you need someone in office to actually pull the levers, but he's not going to have much power to do these things unless there's a movement behind him. And I don't know whether we'll see that. A lot of people in New York City and throughout the country think that you vote for something and then you go home. And that is the end of it. And you did it. So we'll see. Jolly Pop says Bernie got zapped with the heart attack gun. Is that what Dick Cheney got zapped with? Okay. I want to move on to a bunch of other topics I got to get to, such as 49% of all American children are growing up either in poverty or in low-income households. I want to get to Mossad accidentally admitting or bragging a little too much. I have a lot more coming up, and let's get to it. We might even get to a rundown of why, after now that Dick Cheney is dead, we should totally be speaking ill of the dead. Please, everyone, speak ill of the dead. Very important now that Dick Cheney has died. Now that Dick Cheney's recently expired. So, like I said earlier, for those of you joining the show a little later, if we get to $100 total from Super Chats, I will do an extra 10 to 15 minutes. So, if you're able to help out, we could get there. And Super Chats really do help the show. I appreciate it. So we'll see. But all right, let's keep going here, and let's get to a new Oxfam report that has just come out. In the past year, it says in the past year, this is coming from federal data. They don't make this shit up. In the past year, the wealth of the 10 richest U.S. billionaires has increased by almost $700 billion. $700 billion to 10 asshole dudes. They're warning the Trump administration policies risk driving U.S. inequality to new heights as well. Between 1989 and 2022, a top 0.1% U.S. household gained almost $40 million. A top 1% household gained $8.3 million. Meanwhile, the bottom 20% household gained less than $8,500. That's from 1989 to 2022. So Oxfam came out with a report analyzing Federal Reserve wealth data from 1989 to 2022 to identify the trends. While the wealth of the working and middle classes has barely grown in more than 30 years, the gains at the very top, disproportionately wealthy white men, I think most people guessed that. Wealthy white men are disproportionately the group we're talking about. The gains have been astronomical. The share of national income going to the top 1% doubled between 1980 and 2022, with the share going to the bottom 50% decreased by 1/3. Today, the richest 1% own half of the entire stock market. The 1% own half the fucking stock market. The 1% own half of the stock market. The bottom half of the U.S. owns 1% of the stock market. 50% of Americans own 1% of the stock market. And this is why I've been saying this for years. This goes back to my stand-up act before I even had the Redacted Tonight show. This is why when you look at the stock market and people look at the stock market to judge the health of our economy, and they go, well, the stock market's doing well, so that means the economy's doing well. No. That stock market is owned and benefits mainly the top 1%, but we'll stretch it to the top 10% of Americans because the bottom 50% own 1% of the stock market. So what you're really seeing when all the stocks are doing well, you're seeing the leeches on a dead man's body. Like you're seeing the maggots eating the dead man's body, and you're going, wow, those maggots look really plump. That must mean this man is doing well. That's what stocks are showing you. Thank you, Colorado Native Plants, for supporting the show. Thank you for the super chat. Wow, guys, we're almost a fourth to $100, fourth of the way. If we get there, I'll do an extra 10. I'll add an extra 10 minutes to this show, and I might make that a regular thing. We'll see. Thank you, Colorado Native Plants. So, yeah. And as of 2024, over 40% of the U.S. population, including 48.9%, so 49% of children, is considered poor or low income. So there's been a thing circulating on the internet saying 50% of all American children are in poverty. That is slightly not true because it depends on the definition of these words. The definition of these words changes year to year, but they do not consider low income necessarily the poverty line. Low income is still very low income. It's not a lot of money. So it doesn't mean they're doing well, but it's different than the poverty line. So when you see a post that says 49% of American children live in poverty, technically it's 49% of American children are in poverty or low income families. Still crazy, still awful, still insane. And this is while the top 10 richest dudes have gained $700 billion over just the last few years. The new American oligarchy is here. Billionaires and mega corporations are booming while working families struggle to afford housing, healthcare, and groceries. What they're doing isn't new. It's doubling down on decades of aggressive policy choices. What's different is how much undemocratic power they've now amassed. And yeah, I'd say, even though we've had kind of a sham democracy for many years now, I'd say there is definitely some truth to the fact that there's more undemocratic power than there used to be. When you have these top 5 richest people buying up most of the media, that it was still the rich owning the media. The rich owned the media 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, the rich owned the media. Yes, that is true. However, it's a little different to have the top 5 richest people in the world just buying in some of the biggest newspapers, biggest platforms. I mean, Twitter was considered the global town hall bought by the richest man in the world. Elon Musk and Larry Ellison go back and forth. So we'll call them both the richest man in the world. Then you have TikTok, one of the biggest platforms in the world, bought by the richest man in the world. Then you have CBS News, a legacy media bought by the richest man in the world. Then you have Washington Post, one of the most read newspapers in the world, bought by the 3rd or 4th richest man in the world. Then, of course, you have Zuckerberg, which, he owns Facebook, Meta, Insta. So that is billions of views per day. He has the ability to manipulate anyone's opinions with billions of views per day. Thank you, DJ Giannotti, for supporting the show. He wants me to remember the Robert Palmer raids. Oh, that's right. We were covering the Palmer raids one day, and I think you threw in a joke about the Robert Palmer raids. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. Also, Lena, thank you for the super chat, says, we hope to see Netanyahu arrested if he steps in New York City under Mamdani. Appreciate that. Lebanese in Kansas City. That can't be tough. Is there a big Lebanese population in Kansas City? I have no idea, but did I say that can't be tough? That can't be easy is what I to be Lebanese in Kansas City, but what do I know? Maybe there is. There are interesting groups of people in certain areas of the nation, such as in Washington, D.C. I think it's the biggest or maybe second biggest Ethiopian population. Amazing Ethiopian food in Washington, D.C. Anyway, thank you for supporting the show. And, but yeah, so this Oxfam report is showing the gut-wrenching inequality in the United States. Meanwhile, in China, it's like 93% of citizens, their family, not necessarily each person, but their family owns their own home. 93%. In the United States, it's like 60%. And and in many countries, there basically is no homelessness. It doesn't mean there aren't people heavily struggling in many of these countries, but in many countries, they just don't allow homelessness. If you are homeless, they will give you a place to live. It doesn't mean they'll give you a mansion. It doesn't mean they'll give you a Tesla to drive around in, but they will give you an apartment and often a caseworker to help make sure you can continue to survive with a roof over your head. The United States, meanwhile, we're creating prison camps. We're creating concentration camps. The first one is being built right now in Utah off of Trump's, basically in support of Trump's executive order saying the homeless should be put in camps. And don't worry, they're calling it a campus. Yes, they are, because the homeless are going there to learn how to be fucking prisoners. It's a campus in Utah. Let's see, what are we at here for? Let's see if we'll get to $100 and add 10 minutes to the show. We're at 14, 24, 29. I'll call that 30. We're already at $40. There you go. We're at the halfway point of the hour, and we already got $40. So very well could make the $100. Anyway, great Oxfam report. If you want more information on the gut-wrenching inequality in America, it's getting ugly. It's getting ugly out there. And much of this is done with the support of the Democrats. Much of this we were led to this point by the Democrats. It doesn't mean they're necessarily supporting all of Trump's current policies, but they're certainly not putting up that much of a fight. Yeah, they have the government shutdown right now, but how much is that really stopping Trump? I'm not saying they shouldn't have the government shutdown. I'm just saying he continues to fund all of his favorite things. None of that is changing. Okay, so I want to get to this Mossad chief. He's bragging about Israel booby-trapping the world, but he accidentally kind of reveals something. You'll see what I mean. I don't actually, because Instagram doesn't fucking sucks. Crazy wild balls. It doesn't actually show you how long the clip is, and I haven't watched to the end, so I don't know. We'll see.
Surprises in Gaza.
By the way, this is the guy. I saw him in a different interview. This is the former head of Mossad. And perhaps I need to remind everyone, they committed. He's going to be talking about that crazy terror attack in Lebanon, the largest terror attack in decades, where they blew up the pagers in the pockets of, I think, thousands of people in Lebanon, killing, maiming children, doctors, nurses, a mass terror attack committed by Israel, and they're bragging about it. So.
Surprises?
Yeah.
I mean, intelligence surprises.
Pages, walkie-talkies. Do you know how many equipment, treated equipment do we have in these countries? You don't. I do.
You mean booby-trapped equipment?
Not only booby-trapped.
And spying.
Manipulated equipment.
So he's saying, because we know about the Lebanon terror attack, he's saying, we have, and he means booby trap, but I think he didn't want to admit that it was all just bombs. But manipulated equipment, spying in order to spy, in order to blow them up if they see fit. Now, he could be lying to get people scared, right? To get people afraid of criticizing Israel. But let's keep going for a second. And the guy asks an interesting question. If you've got all these devices ready to blow up in any country.
All right. In which countries are you talking about?
All the countries that you can imagine.
We have devices. This is all breaks international law. It's war crimes. It's terrorism. It's flat out dictionary definition of terrorism. And this former head of the Mossad is admitting it.
And not Gaza?
Not Gaza.
That's an interesting question, huh? If you're telling the truth that you have booby-trapped all the devices around the world, why would you not do any in Gaza?
Not enough.
In Gaza at all.
Did you see that? If we had it, we knew something about them coming. Something, right? Would have sold them everything. Just everything.
So it's a little, the way it's parsed is a little confusing, but he's saying this proves that we didn't know that Hamas was coming on October 7th. Now, we know absolutely they knew Hamas was coming for a multitude of reasons, but perhaps the most obvious one is that even the New York Times, even the pro-Israel New York Times, has reported that Israel got a long, 70-page document detailing Hamas's attack a year ahead of time. New York Times reported that, meaning that is known. That's very known. That's not even, you don't even have to go to the edges of the internet to see that Israel had the details of the October 7th attack a year in advance. But he's trying to say, look, this proves we didn't know shit or we would have had all of their devices booby-trapped. But it could prove two things. It could also prove that you are lying when you say you have devices in all of the countries. I imagine that's the truth. They don't have devices in all of the countries. They successfully were able to interrupt the production of these devices that went to Lebanon, to some to Hezbollah, some to doctors' pockets, etc. But that doesn't mean that they got into the production of every device fucking everywhere. It's bullshit. And so I think it's just what he's saying. It proves they didn't know anything. I say it proves he's speaking bullshit, which is what CIA, Mossad's like CIA. It's what Mossad or CIA would do. But the other thing it could prove is that you wanted it to not look like you knew Hamas was coming. If Hamas committed October 7th and then all of a sudden you blew up all their pockets, might seem like you knew something. But furthermore, it also undermines his line. It undermines it in multiple ways. It also undermines his bullshit claim that they have them all over the world, because that would imply that you're only selling them to countries you know are going to do something to you, which is what? Every country is doing something to you? Because you just said they're in all the countries. I think that the reality of this is he's bullshitting to make everyone afraid that Israel has booby-trapped your pocket, and he got caught in it. To me, that's what this idiot is saying.
And you can't imagine the quantity when I have invented that method. That was in 2002 to 2004.
The pager method.
The manipulated equipment method.
The pager terrorism, you mean? Method. Method's a nice euphemism.
Okay. We have already used it. Manipulated equipment. In Second Lebanon War, some of the elements were speaking to us.
How did you use it?
On a glass of water.
Anyway, he's a sick fuck, but I mainly thought it's interesting that they're willing to brag, even though it's clear he's lying. They're willing to brag about, we will commit terror acts around the world because they are a terror state. And I did an article recently on Substack. Could you even imagine if Israel didn't exist? Could you dream up a more terrorist state than Israel? And I go through the list as to what kind of country you'd have to invent to come up with a more terrorist state. And anyway, if you want to read that list, it's at realleecamp.substack.com. But let's keep going. Still a little bit on the topic of Israel. By the way, if we get to $100 super chats, either here or on Rumble, I will do an extra 10 minutes. But also, I wanted to say, someone emailed me, and I appreciate you emailing me, to say that they're, at least in where they're watching Rumble, I haven't seen it, but there are horrific ads on my stuff, on my videos, encouraging people to join ICE and awful shit, which is a lot of what Rumble stands for. So I understand why those are the ads. But as far as I know, I'm not getting paid any ad dollars on Rumble. So it's just Rumble plastering garbage on my videos, which is terrible. And if it's really bad, like it's really hitting everyone, then I guess I would just take down my Rumble channel, which sucks to, build up anything and then tear it down. But I would need to hear from more of you as to whether that's what you're seeing if you're watching at rumble.com/LeeCamp. So maybe shoot me an email at LeeCampMail, MAIL at gmail.com, and let me know if you're getting flooded with pro-ICE ads or some other garbage like that, because that would be an important thing to know. It's one thing to have a stupid ad for Subway sandwiches like YouTube will put on my videos, but it's another to have awful shit. Okay, so Gray Zone is reporting that the company that created the AI drones, these are like self-piloting drones that are over Gaza, are now surveilling American cities. Basically, these drones were tested tested over a genocide and are now being used on American cities. AI-powered quadcopter. Oh, sorry. This was actually originally published at Do Not Panic. So this is actually not from Gray Zone originally. AI-powered quadcopter drones used by the IDF to commit genocide in Gaza are flying over American cities, surveilling protesters, and automatically uploading millions of images to an evidence database. The drones are made by a company called Skidio, which in the last few years has gone from relative obscurity to quietly becoming a multi-billion-dollar company and the largest drone manufacturer in the United States. The company has contracts with more than 800 law enforcement and security agencies across the country, and up from 320. It's up from 320 this March of last year. So it's gone from 320 law enforcement agencies to 800. Their drones are being launched hundreds of times a day in American towns and cities. Skidio has extensive. Skidio sounds like some 1980s video game system or something. These stupid names. Google paid billions of dollars for the Israeli company Wiz. What are these naming meetings like? They must be just atrocious. Skidio has extensive links with Israel. Looks like Skidio is involved in Genocidio. In the first weeks of the genocide, the California-based company sent more than 100 drones to the IDF with promises of more to come. How many more were delivered since that admission is unknown. Skidio has an office in Israel and partners with Defense Sync, a local military drone contractor operating as the middleman between drone manufacturers and the IDF. Skidio has also raised hundreds of millions of dollars from Israeli-American venture capitalists and from venture capital funds with extensive investments in Israel. And yet again, this is showing how this genocide is being used to create equipment that is then brought home to the United States. Create equipment and techniques to track and tear up the rights of Americans, arrest and oppress Americans. So it's not just Gaza. It's also, this shit's used against the United States. According to our research, almost every large American city has signed a contract with Skidio in the last 18 months, including Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, San Diego, Cleveland, Jacksonville. Skidio drones were recently used by city police departments to gather information at the No Kings protests. Oh, really? They found out where all the liberals were? What information? Honestly, and look, if you went to the No Kings thing, I have no problem with that. My big point is just realize that it's important for awareness. It's not, No Kings protests are not going to change the operating procedure of the ruling parasites. So I have no problem with you attending them, but I just what information are you going to get from the No Kings protest? Oh, this person showed up with a sign and then they went home. Very important to know. They were also used by Yale to spy on the anti-genocide protest camp set up by students at the university last year. In Atlanta, the company has partnered with the Atlanta Police Foundation. You remember how horrific Atlanta police are, the Cop City shit. They, murdered and arrested protesters who were trying to stop Cop City from being built. Anyway, partner with APF, Police Foundation, to install a permanent drone station within the massive new Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. That's Cop City. Detroit recently spent nearly $300,000 on 14 Skidio drones, according to a city procurement report. Last month, ICE bought a Skidio drone, which automatically tracks and pursues a target. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has bought 33 of the same drones since July. Also, can I point out how far we've come since the days when Americans were furious when there were drones overhead? Do you remember that? It wasn't that long ago. I think it was still even under the first Trump administration. When Americans found out there were drones over their heads, they were angry. They said this isn't fair. This is an invasion of privacy. Now we're all just like, yeah, fucking sure. Let the cops, let ICE use drones. Yeah, anybody can use drones. Anybody can be flying over my head watching me. Sure, why not? How quickly it moves. And you remember the first time there was ever, I think first ever, a drone, and this was before they were this big, you know, they weren't the size of a credit card yet. First time there was a drone being used in American skies by law enforcement. They said it was to capture, I believe, a pedophile or a child kidnapper or something. And that was what they did to get you to be like, okay, sure. You can use drones over our heads as long as it's only for the pedos. There's only, right? That's all you're going to use it for. And at the time, there were certain people who said, you know, I bet they don't only use this for pedos. I bet this is kind of like a test balloon. It's a test drone to see if they can get away with more and more drone usage over our heads. And people said, that's crazy. These are just pedophile drones. That's all they're used for. These are just kidnapper drones. These just get the bad guys. And now, fast forward, I don't know what, 10, 15 years, here we are going, oh, sure, every police department, drones over our head. Yes, thank you. Zaz in the comments says Leah's always right. Your words, not mine. Okay. It just happens. It's pretty easy to always be right if you just understand the motivations of the ruling elite. Once you understand what they're after and what their aim is and what they're capable of, it all follows the same path. They never do anything positive. They never do anything to help people. Like, once you start judging things from that angle, it's tough to get it wrong, really. The AI system behind Skidio drones is powered by NVIDIA chips, now the biggest company in the world, right? NVIDIA, and enables their operation without a human user. The drones have thermal imaging cameras and can operate in places where GPS doesn't work, so-called GPS-denied environments. I was thinking, if they really wanted us to be fine with all these drones overhead, they should just have it wouldn't even take that much. It could be like 1 out of 1,000 of these things delivers free beer to people. Like, that's all it would take. If you see a Skidio drone, you'd be like, is it the beer one? Is it free beer? Is it free beer? And it's just like, maybe parachutes down. You wouldn't want to drop it too hard because then it would explode or whatever. You parachute down a can of beer, just random cans of beer to people across America. And then nobody would have any problem. And if someone tried to take the Skidio drones out of the sky, everyone would be furious, the angrier protests that we've ever had in this fucking country. People, bring back the fucking drone beers. Bring back the free drone beer, parachute beers. People would be setting shit on fire. I'm telling you, I could run this system. I could run this fascist system so much better than they're doing it. I really could. Anyway, as I just mentioned, they can operate in GPS denied environments. So for those of you who've been to a protest recently, you might have noticed that a lot of the times when the cops want to, they shut off your phones, they shut off your GPS. I've seen this at many protests. It goes back many years. They've had this capability. They'll just jam the phones so that you can't upload video, etc. Well, these drones apparently can operate in GPS-denied environments. A spokesman recently told a drone news website that the NYPD launched more than 20,000 drone flights in less than a year, which would mean drones are being launched around the city 55 times a day. 55 times a day. A city report last year said the NYPD at that time was operating 41 Skidio drones. Wonder if Mamdani's going to do anything about Skidio drones. An FAA waiver issued this month opened the floodgates for these drones, allowing police and security agencies to operate drones beyond a visual line of sight and over large crowds of people. Skidio's docking platform hardware allows these things to land at docking stations throughout your city so that they don't actually have to come from a police department. They could come from the top of a building somewhere you don't even know. And that's where they dock and deliver their information back to the police. I mean, it is full level surveillance. We're quickly getting to full level surveillance where you couldn't do shit. You can't even go buy your goddamn drugs in the alley anymore. They're gonna know. What kind of bullshit is that? Assholes. Okay, I'm going to get to a few more stories, or at least one more story, if we have time. But I wanted to say this real quick. If you are in Raleigh, there is an event this weekend featuring, she'll be there, Eleanor Goldfield, as well as other artists. It's at the, I don't know if that's pronounced Rumman Room, Rumman Room in Raleigh, North Carolina this weekend, November 8th, 6 to 9 p.m. Eleanor has been doing these awesome events where she displays art that is made by, they are prints of arts made by artists in Gaza, currently in Gaza. And they sell the prints of this art, and the money, 100% of the money goes to the artists in Gaza. None of it, there's no middleman. I mean, Eleanor's the middleman and none of the money goes to her. So you can both buy these prints so that you can have this Gaza art in your house or your apartment, but also you are supporting Gaza or Gazan artists who are trying to survive. For tickets, go to, this is again is in Raleigh, North Carolina, go to bit.ly / Gaza, the number 2 Gaza. Now, this is really confusing, and I'm sorry for that. But for those of you listening to the podcast, it is a capital G on the first Gaza, then the number 2, then a lowercase g on the second Gaza. So bit.ly / Gaza, number 2 Gaza, but first one, capital G, second Gaza, lowercase g. I overheard a meeting that they were having, and they just wanted to make it as confusing as possible. So, and let's see, that again is in Raleigh at 5104 Western Boulevard, Raleigh, North Carolina, November 8th. That's this weekend, 3 days. 6 to 10 p.m. I guess this one says slightly different times, but what's it say? It says 6 to 9 p.m. So I guess 10 p.m. must be the cleanup. But anyway, only $10 to attend. And I think it'll have awesome artists there as well. So that's if you're in around North Carolina. And here is if you're in or around New York City. I'll be performing live with John F. O'Donnell from Redacted tonight, December 12th at the Cobra Club. This is not a big room. We're just doing a fun little show. So grab your tickets. It's like $10 or something. I guess 12 after tax. But only a few tickets in that room. And it's called the Cobra Club. So you can go get those at tinyurl.com/Lee Cobra Club. Tiny URL. Here, I'll type it in the Lee Cobra Club. Okay. Let's keep moving here. Thank you guys so much for throwing in some chats, some conversation over there. I want to get to my... Where is it? Oh, there it is. I want to get to my coverage real quick of Dick Cheney. No, it does not look like we made it to $100 in super chats. Which, if we make it 100 before I finish this next story, I'll add 10 minutes to that. But anyway, I want to do this story on Dick Cheney's legacy. A dead dick. There's a dead dick, and I have put up a post, a column over on Substack. Some of you might have read it. If you want the full column and you want to share it with people, then you can go to realleecamp.substack.com. But anyway, I want to go through a bit of Dick Cheney's history here. Some of the things you should remember about Dick Cheney, because I feel like we all remember like the greatest hits. We all remember like WMD in Iraq and him being a shithead who pushed WMD, but we kind of don't remember it all. We don't like every little thing. And because with any other human being, each thing he did was so horrific that he should be remembered just for being that evil. But the problem is when you have so much evil, you can't keep track of it all. So let's go through. In the article, I'd say these are 18 reasons to speak ill of Dick Cheney now that he is dead as a doorknob. Dick Cheney was either the Secretary of Defense or the Vice President during the U.S. invasion of Panama, the U.S. invasion of Iraq, the second U.S. invasion of Iraq, 9/11, the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, and all the scandals that went with all of those events. He never said the U.S. should not have committed any of those acts. Dick Cheney's horror show began way back before he was vice president. He was the Secretary of Defense under George H.W. Bush during the 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama that killed hundreds. Hey, look at that. Steve McNally just finished off I think. Wait, is that Australian 100? Let's see. Let's see what an Australian 100 to USD is. Let's see what the difference is. Oh, it's only 65 US. No, we still made it. It's fine. I'm just kidding with you. But thank you, Steve McNally, so much. I'll add an extra 10 minutes. Really appreciate you. Steve McNally says, rest in piss, Dick Cheney. But anyway, U.S. invasion of Panama, he was the Secretary of Defense. I just did an extended segment on the truth behind the U.S. invasion of Panama for government secrets. You can either watch that for free on my YouTube, youtube.com/moment of clarity, or you can listen to it for free, the Government Secrets podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. That should be up soon. It might not be up yet, but deep dive on the horror show that was the U.S. invasion of Panama. Number 3, during the first Iraq War, Cheney, as Secretary of Defense, oversaw the bombing of civilian infrastructure in Iraq, destroying water, power, and other systems. Number 4, one of the worst episodes of the first Iraq War was the Highway of Death, in which Dick Cheney's Pentagon targeted, bombed, and killed countless Iraqi troops and others fleeing Kuwait, trying to get home. They were sitting ducks on a highway in the middle of a desert. If you haven't learned about the Highway of Death, like you look up the photos, it's insane. This is legitimately them seeing, I think thousands, maybe it was just hundreds, but I think thousands of people fleeing Kuwait because the U.S. had entered the war, fleeing Kuwait on a desert highway. It's a traffic jam. Thank you, Steve McNally, again. And they just bomb the shit out of them. So it's like desert as far as the eye can see, and then just every car and truck blown up on this highway. Absolutely horrific. Thanks again, Steve, for supporting the show. Number 5, he led the House GOP because he was also a member of Congress. Because we apparently voted for him at some point, or some Americans did. He led the House GOP in the effort to defend President Ronald Reagan during the Iran-Contra affair. Number 6, Cheney lobbied to keep Nelson Mandela imprisoned, even though he had already been in prison for 22 years. This was part of a congressional bill to Congress didn't have the power to end the apartheid in South Africa or to free Nelson Mandela, but it was a congressional bill saying that should happen, that the apartheid should end, Mandela should be freed. Cheney lobbied against that vote by Congress to say, no, Mandela should remain in prison, and apartheid in South Africa, the incredibly racist apartheid system, should continue. Number 7, he led the charge for the 2003 invasion of Iraq based on zero, or rather cooked, intelligence connecting Iraq to 9/11, as well as the false intelligence about WMD. The invasion killed over 1 million people. The vast majority were innocent civilians. I think that's probably the one that most people remember, is the WMD bullshit. Number 8, and as we know from Wesley Clark, who said he was inside the Pentagon, that they, within days, it was just a couple of days from 9/11, they already had a list of 7 countries they were going to invade and destroy, including Iraq, Libya, Iran, Syria, and pretty much all of them have come true. Iran, they haven't succeeded, but with the exception of Iran succeeding. Now, they have bombed Iran. Trump killed their top general. Trump with Israel has killed a lot of their military's top generals more recently. So they have attacked Iran many times. They've also assassinated, with the help of Israel, or rather Israel with the help of the U.S., assassinated many Iranian scientists. Number 8, he led the charge for the 2001 U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. Estimates of the number of people murdered during that 20-year war vary, but it's definitely over 500,000. Number 9, Cheney was both one of the architects and the key voices behind the global war on terror, which included Afghanistan and Iraq, right? Which is more accurately called the global war of terror. Between the U.S. military and economic attacks on Yemen, Syria, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, the number of people murdered is likely close to 6 million. Cheney was one of the architects and the biggest voices and the most powerful voices behind this effort that has killed 6 million people. And in this article that I put up at Substack, I include the chart from Nafeez Ahmed that shows the breakdown of the numbers. I'll give a quick version of it. Yemen, 560,000. Syria, 2.5 million. Libya, 136,000. Iraq, Iraq, 1.4 to 1.5 million. Afghanistan, 880,000. Pakistan, 335,000. Now, that includes both direct deaths and indirect deaths. And the total is around 6 million people dead. So that's what, when he goes to the pearly gates and he has to list what's on his resume, he might have to answer for that. Cheney regularly and repeatedly misrepresented pre-war intelligence in order to manufacture consent for these wars. Number 11, he was one of the key figures pushing for and endorsing the use of torture. When the torture report came out detailing the U.S. government's vast array of war crimes, Cheney said, "I'd do it all again in a minute." Number 12, he was an important champion of ripping up constitutional rights of Americans. For example, he pushed for warrantless wiretapping. Number 13, he had blatant conflicts of interest as both the vice president and a former CEO of Halliburton, who still had very strong ties to Halliburton. His energy task force was found to have detailed maps of Iraqi oil fields, adding evidence to the claim that the invasion of Iraq was about oil. Number 14, Cheney was one of the nation's most prodigious war profiteers. Number 15, he helped weaken checks and balances on presidential power, thereby giving a dictator's toolkit to Donald Trump or whoever comes after him or whoever came before him. I can't remember the name of the guy who came before. Number 16, he created a framework of secretive policymaking, allowing for abuse of power and heavily decreasing civilian oversight of corruption. Number 17, as CEO of Halliburton, one of the world's largest fracking and oil companies, Cheney gave humanity a big push in the direction of probable doom as the planet heats up and the environment attempts to sustain. Number 18, last but not least, he shot his friend Harry Whittington in the face with a shotgun. Once out of the hospital, Whittington apologized to Dick Cheney for having his face in the way of Dick Cheney's gun. So, if you want all of those details to share with friends, to remind people what exactly Dick Cheney did, that is at realleecamp.substack.com. And it would really help me out if you are you could just do it for free, not a free subscriber at Substack. It helps me grow. Right now, I am I can't find it. But last I checked, I was like 34 in the rising political writers on on Substack. And so by you subscribing for free, you'll help me maybe go up a little higher than number 34 in the world. But yeah, I conclude by saying Dick Cheney was not just a war criminal, not just a pro-torture psychopath, not just a harbinger of doom who led the charge that killed 6 million innocent people. He was also a loving husband and father. And therefore, we shouldn't speak ill of him now that he's passed. I'm kidding. Fuck that lunatic. So there you go. Thought that was nice. Thought that was a nice little closing line. All right, because you guys are amazing and we got to 100 in the super chats, I am going to give you a little bit more here. Let's see. What do we want to do? Well, we'll stick on the topic of Israel for a moment. So you guys are aware of how Wikipedia works. It's supposed to be that a group of editors decide, and you know, anybody can edit it, but not really. It used to be anyone could edit it. Now there's basically 95% of all edits are made by 500 largely white men, largely Western white men, that have worked their way up the I edit Wikipedia, group chat, so that they're the most respected, and therefore it means that people like me can't even edit our own Wikipedia pages. Because if I go in there and say something is false, they'll just change it back or maybe not allow it to be changed because they say you're not a respected Wikipedia editor and you need to source whatever it is you said. Now, if the thing I said doesn't have a source like the New York Times or CNN, then it doesn't matter that I'm saying it. Doesn't matter that I'm saying it about myself. In fact, for a while, that Wikipedia page was saying my mother was a judge in Washington, D.C. named Laura Camp. And I don't know how long it had said that. I think for years. But I was only made aware of it several months ago. So I tweeted out, hey, Wikipedia, my actual mother, Sydney Fleischer Camp, is going to be kind of surprised to find out she's a judge and not a social worker. And at that point, they did change it. But in general, they refuse to change stuff, and they only go by what, like, New York Times says. But the idea is that one guy cannot, if something's been approved, can't just go in and alter things. Yet, the founder or co-founder of Wikipedia, Jimmy Wales, has gone in and personally edited the article in Wikipedia called Gaza Genocide. And he locked it because he claims it has an anti-Israel bias, because he wanted it to be clear that there's still debate over whether this is a genocide. No, there fucking isn't. No, there fucking isn't. Look up the dictionary definition of genocide, as you can find on the Holocaust Memorial Fund's website. And it only has to be, they'll come up with the dictionary definition has a bunch of different aspects that can mean something's genocide. If you fit any one of them, if the actions fit any one of them, it's genocide. What Israel has done and is doing fit all except for possibly one of like 10 different characteristics of genocide. But again, you only have to fit one of them, and they fit all of them. Anyway, Jimmy Wales has gone in and altered the Gaza genocide article. And I'm not going to read you the rest of the article from Times of Israel, because Times of Israel is a pro-genocide, pro-Israel rag. So I'm sure whatever they're saying is bullshit. So I wanted to bring you that. And while we're on the topic of Israel censorship, a great journalist, you should support him, named Robert Inlakesh. And I've quoted from him before. I believe he's Palestinian, but I don't know if he's in Gaza. Let's see. His bio just says documentary filmmaker, journalist, writer, Middle East analyst. Anyway, whatever he is, great journalist, does very important work on Gaza. And he responded to an Intercept article saying YouTube quietly erased more than 700 videos documenting Israeli human rights violations. So Israel is also busy, according to The Intercept. Did I say Israel? YouTube is also busy purging proof of Israeli crimes. And this might also be why I'm so suppressed on YouTube. But Inlakesh has responded by saying YouTube deleted all of my coverage of Israeli soldiers shooting civilians, including children targeted on a live stream, along with my entire account. They erased his entire account for documenting Israel's genocide. He says, I was given no community guidelines violations, and 3 separate excuses were given to me as to why this happened. Then Google went ahead and deleted my email and now won't respond to appeals. They deleted his fucking email. I haven't even faced that. They did delete my YouTube account, the old one, the bigger one, but they never deleted my email. Anyway, apparently, according to The Intercept, right now there is a purge by YouTube deleting proof of Israel's genocide. Because, you know, step 1 is to commit this genocide. Step 2 is to alter history on places like Wikipedia so that, 10 and 20 and 30 years from now, people go back and go, I don't think it was a genocide. I think there was a war going on. See, there was a war between the children of Gaza and the weapons systems of Israel. I think that's pretty obvious. All right, last story. And again, thank you guys for hooking the super chat up so that we get a longer than normal episode. I had not seen until now a longer article or an interview, or maybe almost any interviews with Greta Thunberg about what went down when she was kidnapped, black-bagged by Israel in international waters. And this article now is out. It's been out for a little while, but I'm just now getting to covering it. Unfortunately, a lot been in the news. But it's on a Swedish site, a well-known Swedish, one of the biggest Swedish newspapers or magazines called Aftonbladet. But you can get the English version. So I highly recommend you read the whole article. It is extensive, but I wanted to bring you the highlights. And Greta has largely refused, and as she says in the article, tried very hard to make this story not about her. And she, even in her first speaking to cameras when she was released, she did not relay what had happened to her. She just said, this isn't about me. She might have used the word, she might have said treated poorly, but she didn't reveal the details. Now we have a lot of the details, such as them beating her. They forced her and many others to lay on the ground with their face on the ground. And if they picked up their head to look around or to ask for something, they would be kicked and beaten. And so she said she was kicked and beaten many times. I think the reason they prefer like kicking over top of clothes instead of punch to the face is because they assume it's not going to cause quite as much bruising, and therefore there'll be less evidence of it. You can see a photo here of her luggage, which Israel obviously took all the luggage when they kidnapped them in international waters. And while they had her luggage, they took anything they wanted to out of the luggage. While they had her luggage, they wrote across it, "Whore Greta." Because not only are these genocidal maniacs, they're also fucking children. So you can see that her luggage still says "Whore Greta." Apparently, she said that apparently they constantly called her little whore in Swedish. But it sounds like they put her in, they gave her a quote unquote special treatment, treating her poorer than the rest. But it seems like the worst torture, and it was torture. A lot of it is definitely torture. The worst torture aspects were at one point they put a bunch of them in a cell. There were so many in the little cell that they couldn't sit down, which you can only stand for a certain amount of time before it becomes almost impossible. And, people start passing out. and there was no room to sleep or anything. And sometimes when they'd fall asleep, somehow someone would come by and one of the soldiers would come by and scream to make sure they were always awake. So sleep deprivation, another form of torture. But along with that, the biggest form of torture was not giving them any water. And so after several days, it becomes truly, life and death to not have any water. And they were begging for water. And the guards would come by drinking bottles of water and then throw half of it away in the garbage just to show to them that they didn't care and weren't giving them water. And also a lot of the article points out that the people who were from countries with ambassadors in Israel, with, officials in Israel, many of them came to see their citizens. Greta is a citizen of Sweden. So Swedish officials did come to see Greta, and they did nothing for her, absolutely nothing. And she and others were literally begging them, at least get us water. Like, at least, because if Swedish officials, they don't have a lot of power, but they have enough to say, look, it's torture to not give people water. Can you give them a bottle of water? They did fucking nothing. And in this article, you hear from other Swedish officials to say, well, they chose to go there, meaning they chose to go to international waters. They were not in Israeli waters. They were in international waters. And when they were arrested, kidnapped. But anyway, I recommend you read the whole article if you want the details of the rest of the torture that was done to Greta Thunberg and the others. It really is insane. And and the other thing was Ben Gvir, the far-right minister, Itamar Ben Gvir, came in and saw and has bragged about torturing them. Basically, what happened was when Greta and the others made their first trip to Israel, to Gaza, they were trying to get to Gaza, but they were kidnapped. Israel treated them fairly well by Israeli standards and then released them. And apparently that upset a lot of Israelis, a lot of the Israeli government, that these people were not tortured. It was very upsetting that you could have people trying to bring aid to Gaza and not torture them. And so when they came back, Greta and the others, it was kind of Israel, like the Israeli government going, look, we'll torture them this time. And we'll prove how great it is that we tortured them. And Ben Gvir visited them and has bragged about torturing them, has bragged that he visited the prison and said afterwards that he had given the orders for the flotilla members to be treated in such a way that they would never want to return. So he gave the order to torture them, and he's bragged about this. So again, there's a war case, there's a war crimes and genocide case against Israel in front of the International Criminal Court, and these statements, like his saying he gave the order, are really important in these courts. If there were to come a time that these people actually get arrested, and sometimes that happens. I don't think the Nazi guards thought they were going to be on the Nuremberg trial either, did they? Look at what happened. So these statements are useful. And anyway, I think it's important to think of how brave this was for these people to go. I think it did bring a lot of international attention to this cause. I think it's noble of Greta to repeatedly, over and over, say this isn't about her. Even in this article where she gave some of the details, she said it wasn't about her. She was still vague on some of the details. Other prisoners have said, I think every prisoner was forced, every victim was forced to take off all their clothes at some point, and maybe put on, prison clothes and stuff. Greta specifically, I think they apparently took a ton of photos of. Probably they're, both to humiliate her and they're maybe hoping to use as some form of blackmail going forward. But anyway, she has worked actually quite hard to make this story not about her. I actually, if I were advising her on her PR, I know how bullshit that is, but the truth is that when the story's about her, it does get global attention, and in that way it's useful. So I'm not saying she should jump out of the moment she lands at the airport in Sweden, go running out and go, can you believe what they did to me? I'm not saying that, but I think that the story about her gets a lot of attention, and there's a lot of importance to that. So, because it shows how horrific Israel is, how they act with impunity, how they're willing to do this despite the world's eyes on them. And so that's why it seems important to me. Okay, thank you guys so much. I'm going to wrap up. I have another live stream on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Also have a new episode of Unredacted tonight, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't watched last week's episode, I hope you will. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for Unredacted tonight. I'm not so sure there'll be an episode the week after that, but we'll worry about that later. Thank you guys, and keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha ha.